It's gonna be like the life that we did for the beginning of that Iran war with the US. We're just gonna talk about the history, the facts, and not so much of facts, you can say, or conspiracy theories or whatnot. Whatever you believe in, we're gonna do it today. Um, so let me just change something here. Trying to get my. No, this is too big. Hold on. But what is everyone's take so far on this whole ordeal of the assassination attempt? The third one, we might add, the third assassination attempt on the president, the sitting president of the United States. What do you guys take on that? What is your guys' take on that right now? Curious to know. What are your thoughts? Funny. Trying to get this thing saturated. I've probably done this before I did this in. Yeah. So what are your guys' takes? What's the guys' takes on that? We're gonna uncover and talk about a variety of things, right? And I want to see so far, what are your takes when it comes to this assassination attempts on the president? Do you believe it? Is it staged? Is it real? I want to know what your thoughts are before I go ahead and give my whole spiel about this whole thing. And as if we've been taking this, it's been on the 25th, so today's the 28th. Hello. Today's the 28th. So I give it about a couple of days to kind of dig through some things, read through some things, conspiracy theories, all of that stuff, whatever you want to say. Huh? If I seem repetitive on the things that I already said, my apologies, okay? I'm live on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. And hello, people on TikTok. Maybe I should go live on Instagram actually instead of TikTok, honestly. But so let's give a breakdown. People on YouTube, what are your guys' takes on this? Is it staged or real? The White House shooting, everything we know and everything we. What do you mean this? Hello. Right. So we've seen real photos, Secret Service agents swarming the stage at Washington Capitol, guests diving under the table, chaos. And then we see like bold live badge on top of the corner, large, presence of security that this man has, surpassed. Right? So if you're here already, people on YouTube, you already know what this channel is about. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're on TikTok, if you haven't followed us, I guess, or followed me, go ahead and follow me. But more of my contact when it comes to politics or just talking about the lay global news and immigration stuff is going to be on my YouTube channel. So today's live session is a live session, and we're going to do something I don't think that other channels have been doing so far, haven't done so far. We're going to lay out every single fact the best that we can, and every single theory and historical pattern, and we're going to ask you. I'm gonna let you decide what to believe. I'm not going to tell you what to think for today. I'm going to give you everything, the confirmed facts, the things that are not confirmed, everything. And you decide which is true to you. I'm in the US, right? We're going to decide. the theories that are trending on X and just social media, the historical record of every security incident involving this particular president, and the biggest pattern underneath of it all. So you can talk in the comment sections and we'll go from there. So far what we know, it's been what, a couple of days now. On the 25th, so last Saturday, or this past Saturday, Washington Hill Capitol, Washington, D.C., the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. Approximately about 2,600 guests or people in attendance. So cabinet members, senators, celebrities, presidents, and the First Lady of the U.S. were there. Now, this dinner was historically significant for one reason. We know that Donald Trump, has boycotted this event for his entire first term. He called it a fake news dinner, right? He refused to go. This year, he accepted the invitation, first time as a sitting president, for him at least, to attend the WHCA, right? The room included the Vice President, Secretary Marco Rubio, RFK Jr., Treasury, Scott Bessonette, FBI Director, Kash Patel, Janine Pirro, nearly the entire cabinet basically in one room. So around 8:35 Eastern Time, the president, the WHCA president Jiang had just delivered her welcome remarks. The stage for dinner was being served. The first course was, salad that was on the table. Trump seated at the head of the stage next to Melania Trump, his wife. Multiple shots were heard, like between 5 to 8, depending on the witnesses, rang out of the meganometer security screening area at the entrance to the main ballroom, right? Not inside the ballroom, near the checkpoint where people have, their bags scanned and stuff like that. So the CNN's Wolf Blitzer was basically broken down to, or pushed down to the ground. He said the gunman fired what he believed and described as serious weapon at least 6 times from just a few feet away from where he was standing. So a police officer had to physically ground and cover him. Right, so inside the ballroom, Secret Service are like, you've seen Al Jazeera and CNN, all of that stuff. They swarmed the stage within seconds. Trump was surrounded, evacuated. Melania, the vice president, the treasurer, all of that stuff, all pulled from the room simultaneously. Armed guards in full tactical gear with rifles appeared on the stage. Attendees drove under the tables. Someone on a microphone shouted, "Get down!" Like a chaotic, something that you would basically see in a movie, right? Now, the suspect has been identified by senior law enforcement officials briefed on the matter as Cole Allen from Torrance, California, armed with multiple weapons. He attempted to force his way through the security checkpoint, the screening area, before being taken down by Secret Service agents. So, do you think it's a scandal? Do you believe it was my thing is, do you believe it was staged, or this is a real incident that happened? This is the third time his life is being attempted, this current sitting president, right? One Secret Service was attacked, but he was saved by his bulletproof vest. The officer is expected to have full recovery. No other injuries were confirmed. So the suspect is alive, is in custody. He did appear in court yesterday, I believe. Yesterday being Monday. So he's being arraigned. He was arraigned yesterday and whatnot. Get to class! Right? Now, Trump returned to the White House and held a briefing flanked by J.D. Vance and the director of the FBI, and then DHS Secretary and acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. He confirmed that one officer shot, saved by the bullet vest suspect, had multiple weapons. He said, quote, "Fought like hell to stay at the dinner, but law enforcement asked him to leave." So when asked if he believed he was the target, the president said, "I guess, He said the shooter motive will come out in the coming days. He called the suspect, quote, "a nut job." Posted surveillance footage and photos of the suspect being subdued on true social media. There's the photo of him wearing the IDF shirt as well. So tell me, what is your first reaction to those facts so far? Are you buying the official? Are you buying the official statements? Story that the president and his cabinets are presenting to us? Are we just gonna believe this again? Is it staged? Is it real? Drop in the comments. I'm gonna read them, and while you do that, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, Voices with Anissa Kalbi, the two of you, the couple of you that are here on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. We talk about immigrations. We talk about global news to, like, a lay person like myself, relay it to a lay person like yourself, right? So now, what are the war? Not the war. The streets are saying, right? Because within minute of this breaking news, the word stage has been roaming, trending on X. Not five, not one. I'm going to lay out every single theory circulating right now that's been circulated. I'm going to give you the counter argument to each one. You decide, right? The most common one trending is that the argument people are making, Trump approval rating has dropped to mid-30s according to recent Reuters report, and strengthening numbers poll. Midterm elections are 6 months away. His handling of the economy, immigration, and Iran war is, polling a historic low. The theory is a president who appears to be a target of an assassination attempt gets sympathy surge, right? And I highly doubt the American people right now are thinking about playing any type of sympathy card for this sitting president, honestly, right? So people, rally around presidents in danger. It happens to Reagan. It happened briefly after July 2020. No, is it July? July 2024 ear shooting. The argument is that what better way to reset a collapsing approval rating than a dramatic security incident at the most high profile press of the year? And there's going to be more information to come that I'm going to give you guys when it comes to this ballroom, right? Now, we know that Cole Allen has been identified. He's in custody. He was arraigned yesterday. Real weapons, a real officer in a real hospital setting have been shot in the vest. Those details are very hard to manufacture, you can say, right? This is a counter argument. And the Secret Service don't have history of staging incidents involving live fire and real casualties. Theory number 2 is that Caroline Levitt predicted it. So this one went massively viral within hours before the shooting. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt was speaking to Fox News about, people have their theories on Fox News and stuff like that, how they report things about what to expect from Trump's speech at the dinner. She said, and this is a direct quote confirmed by the Mirror, "It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There'll be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in." Okay? That's what she said directly. She said shots fired before shots were fired. Now, the obvious explanation is that she was using a common figure of speech, obviously. In a press dinner context, shots fired means jokes or burns, basically. So that's a standard English language for past roast style speeches. But the timing of that clip posted everywhere within minutes of the actual shooting. So this was basically driving this theory that Levitt has predicted this. And then the counter argument that clearly an idiom, Levitt was, describing Trump's speech style. She said it in the context of comedy and entertainment. Pulling that clip out of context and presenting it as prediction is a stretch. But the internet does not care about context when timing is this precise, which I kind of so agree to. Theory number 3 is 3 incidents is statistically impossible. So this theory is coming from people who say the odds of one president experiencing 3 separate security incidents involving gunfire in under 2 years is statistically beyond coincidence. So you go back to the July 2024 Butler, Pennsylvania rally. A man opened a gunfire. It grazed Trump's right ear. 1 rally goer died. 2 were critically wounded. A shooting confirmed. September 2024, Palm West Beach golf course. Ryan Wesley was found with an AK-style rifle near Trump's golf course and fled before firing. Not a confirmed shooting, but a confirmed armed threat. Then we got this week one or last week one, the 25th, the White House Hilton. People are doing the math publicly. One president, three incidents in 21 months. The argument is statistically, this is extraordinary. Most presidents go their entire term with zero incidents at this level. So the counter argument you can say is that Trump, arguably the most polarizing president in modern American history, he survived his first term with significant threat volume. The political climate has become dramatically more violent and politically and socially since 2020. So higher threat environment plus higher profile president plus ongoing war and collapsing approval rate equals higher probability of real threats materializing. And historically, Abraham Lincoln received threats constantly before 1865. McKinley survived one attempt before being killed in the second. JFK Secret Service lodged hundreds of threats. So the counter argument is that Trump's threat environment is genuinely elevated for documented reasons. And as we know, he's a polarizing president. Okay? Historical. He is a comedian at best. Right? And the fourth one that I can think of that we've been seeing on social media when it comes to this shooting is that Trump himself said after the incident, the venue was not particularly secure incident. Now we're going to come back to this in terms of the ballroom and the money that he's trying to spend on this and why this incident would be like, you can't fool us again type of thing, right? He used it as an argument as the building White House ballroom. People online are asking, why was the president brought to a venue the president himself was now calling insecure? Right? Who made the security decisions? And is it possible that the decision to attend after years of boycotting was itself a security miscalculation? Yes. So this one is less conspiracy and more, you can say, legitimate question about the Secret Service decision making. And then the fifth one that I've come across is that the president, some people, particularly in the international news spaces and Middle Eastern diaspora communities online, are connecting to the 25th Saturday's incident to Iran's ceasefire negotiation currently underway. The theory is that the domestic security crisis involving the president conveniently redirects attention from stalled peace talks, rising gas prices, and midterm pressure simultaneously. And the files, as you can see over there, the Stein files, right? He said, Trump himself addressed this at the press conference. He said he doubts any connection between the shooter and the Iran war and said it would not stop him from winning the war in Iran. And this war was supposed to be over within, a week or 2 weeks or the most 1 month after it's still ongoing. There's no peace talk. Everything is false, right? The fact that he addressed the connections unprompted without being asked about it, which we know this president does most of the time. He just says things to say things at best, right? It's what people are flagging. So, which theory would you say resonates with you? Which one falls apart when you look at it closely, right? Drop your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so since you're already here. We talk about immigrations, global news, and domestic news. Break it down in short clips, no more than 20 minutes, no more than 10 minutes, the most that we do. So be sure to subscribe, like, share, comment. Now, there's a historical pattern here, right? Through the full historical record, because to understand what happened this weekend, I think we need to have some sort of a historical context to it, right? A little bit of it of some sort. Trump, so the July one, we talked about Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, right? Thomas Matthews climbs into a rooftop approximately 130 meters from the stage within the security perimeters, but outside of the innermost ring. He fires multiple shots of AR-15 style rifles. A bullet grazes his thing. One person is, unalived. The two other are critically wounded. Crook is killed by unalived by the Secret Service sniper. So the immediate question arose: how did a 20-year-old with a rifle get on top of a rooftop within sight of the president? Who was responsible for that building? Why were local law enforcement warnings about suspicions? of the individual not escalated, a Senate investigation was launched. The Secret Service director resigned. Okay, this is for the July 2024 one. Are you guys following? So that person resigned. Then the September one, the West Palm Beach, Florida one, Ryan Wesley, a 58-year-old man, is found by the Secret Service in a rough, near the sixth hole of Trump International Golf Club while Trump was playing. He had an AK-47 style rifle, a loaded pistol, two additional loaded magazines, a GoPro camera, and a handwritten note saying that he was trying to unalive Trump and was willing to die for it. He fled when agents spotted him and was arrested in Interstate 95. He's serving a life sentence now. Okay, that's that. Then we have the Saturday incident, Cole Allen, Torrance, California. Multiple weapons, security checkpoints, 5 shots fired. One officer hit, you can say, saved by the vest. Suspect in custody. He was arraigned yesterday, Monday. So all of this, one president, right? It just doesn't statistically sound logical for it to happen. We can go and do the Reagan parallel, right? The White House, the Washington Hilton is the same hotel where John Hinckley shot President Ronald Reagan on March 30th of 1981, just outside of the building as Reagan was leaving a speaking engagement. Reagan was struck by the bullet that punctured his lung and it caused a serious internal bleeding. He survived. His press secretary, James Brady, was shot in the head and survived with a permanent brain damage. Now, as Secret Service agents and DC policy and police officers were also shot, Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Yeah. So the fact that this week's incident, Saturday's incident, happened at the exact same venue as Reagan's shooting 45 years later is what's giving conspiracy communities the most fuel, I would say. Calling it deliberate, law enforcement had made no such connection so far. Now, there's a broader pattern of political violence that we can take a look at, which is during the Capitol riot back in 2021, more than a dozen journalists were targeted in deliberate assaults by rioters, according to Freedom of the Press Foundation. A pipe bomber mailed explosive devices to CNN offices in New York and Atlanta and multiple Democratic party figures and was sentenced to 20 years. So the climate of political violence in the United States has been documented as escalating since 2016 by every major threat assessment organization, including the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and Institute for Strategic Dialogue. So, what happened on Saturday it did not happen in a vacuum. I feel like it happened inside a country where political violence had been escalating for decades. Now, I want to hear you from the political pattern. Does knowing Reagan was shot at the same hotel change how you might have seen Saturday's incident? Does the three incident pattern change your read on the official story? The comments are open. You can do it after the live to people that are on YouTube. And those that are on TikTok, you might just have to do yours now if you are into politics. So was it staged or real? Right? We don't know his actual motive, Cole Allen's. His background, you could say, is completely unknown. His social media, you can say, completely unknown to the public. The president called him a nut job and posted surveillance footage. Right? That's not a background check. That's just a social media post. Until we know who he is, from what we know so far, he was wearing the IDF photo in one of his pictures in social media posting. So, is he related to or connected to Israel? As we know, most people have made this connection. The United States is a puppet, for the lack of a better word, to the country Israel, right? If Israel doesn't allow something, U.S. is not going to allow it. Israel is the big daddy. You have to get permission from Israel. So, Trump, was he the real target? We don't know. It hasn't been confirmed yet, right? How was he able to pass checkpoint to fire 5 to 6, 8 shots? The survivor bias question is that 3 incidents Trump survived all three. The people asking the hardest questions are not the conspiracy theorists. They include former Secret Service, who's this person? They include former Secret Service agents who gave interviews on Saturday saying the agency needs a full review of his protocol. Now, the question is not whether someone wants to harm Trump. The question is whether the security apparatus around him is functioning at the level that it should be for the most, you can say, threatened president in modern history. The arraignment, and I'm going to get the details into that in a little bit, right? Will be what we're going to see the formal charges. The charges will tell us what the government believes happened and what evidence they have. Everything will be coming out, or it came out yesterday, right? Now, on X, beyond the stage conversation, people are making specific points about the Secret Service response time and protocol. Multiple users who are claim military or law enforcement backgrounds are pointing out that in 2024 Butler shooting, the security failure was a rooftop within sight of the stage not being cleared. Tonight's security failure appears to be someone with multiple weapons getting close enough to the magnet meter checkpoint to fire multiple shots. 2 different security lapses, 2 different failures. People are asking, why does this keep happening? Like, it's like, what's the purpose of it? What's really going on here? On TikTok, the Caroline Levitt clip is, circulating. It's been viewed tens of millions of times in under 2 hours. The comments are split about exactly if half of those people are saying it's an idiom. People are saying the timing is too precise to dismiss and call it an idiom. Reddit, specifically the political and the politics and the conspiracy subreddits, the most upvoted theory is not state. It's something more specific. People are arguing that the real story is not whether Saturdays was staged, but whether the sustained political climate of dehumanizing language, constant enemy making, and normalizing of political violence has created a condition where real attempts keep materializing. The argument is not staged or not. Why does it keep, you know, why does this keep being the world we live in? So here's the truth that sits underneath all of what happened Saturday that we all kind of take account for. Whether you believe Alan Cole acted alone in his own motivations, whether you think the approval rating theory has merit, whether you believe Reagan Hotel parallel is a coincidence or a signal, whether you think Caroline Levitt's comment was an idiom or a slip, underneath all of it is a country where this is now a reoccurring pattern. Journalists are diving under tables at press dinner, where a police officer is recovering from a police bullet, where 2,600 people sat in a ballroom on Saturday and did not know if they were going to go home. Staged or not, that is real so far that we know. I think there were real human lives being gambled on. I'm with you on that, Sunshine. Staged, I definitely, because I was watching these other TikToks. They're like, how is it that, right? And this is not me enticing any type of violence or anything like that, but the things that social media is saying is like, how is it that you try to aim at the president and you miss for the third attempt, the third time? How is it possible, right? And then, yeah. And that's another thing, the Stein files. So kind of give you up a speed, right? Because I guarantee you most of us have lost the track, and is exactly the problem, I would say, where the files stand right now. The Files Transparency Act was signed into law back in November 19th, 2025, okay, last year. It required the AG, the Attorney General, to release all files within 30 days. Simple, clear, legal obligation. Now, when those files were released, we know it was all redacted. It was really nothing to see there, right? What actually happened is that series of delays, partial releases, and what the DOJ Inspector General is now, formally investigating as a possible non-compliance with the law. A couple months ago, January 30th of this year, the deputy AG Todd Blanchie released what he called a 3.5 million document and declared them, quote, the last remaining documents. He said the DOJ now is in compliance. NPR immediately reported the investigation have found at least 37 additional files still missing from the public database, still missing. Now, the Bondi connection back in March of this year, the House Oversight Committee, in a rare bipartisan move requiring 5 Republicans to break their own party, subpoenaed Attorney General Pam Bondi to testify about how the DOJ handled the files, the Stein files, if you know what I'm talking about. She was scheduled to appear on the 14th of April this month. April 2nd, Trump fired Bondi. Then the DOJ said she would not appear for the deposition because she's no longer an AG. So the woman who was supposed to answer for the files under oath removed from office 2 weeks before she could sit down and answer questions. And then a man replaced her. Todd Blanchie is the same one who declared the document release complete in January. So now Todd Blanchie is acting as the Attorney General, running the DOJ, the same DOJ the Inspector General is now investigating for possible non-compliance for the files disclosure. CNN reviewed more than a dozen FBI interview memos from the files. They found victims describing being sent by Stein and Ghislaine Maxwell to other men, rich, powerful, named in those files, including, according to those FBI memos, Wall Street executive, former U.S. senators, wealthy psychiatrists, and film producers, and just so much, the wealthy basically. One victim described being introduced to a mysterious bald man by Maxwell at the files, the Stein Palm Beach mansion when she was 15 years old. Now Maxwell allegedly told her, "Make sure our our friend has a really good time." She said she was, great, received approximately $1,000 in cash. Harvey Weinstein is named, a former senator, J.P. Morgan executive named, and as of today, according to NPR reportings, 0 additional arrests have been made in the U.S. based on the files. 0! And that itself is infuriating for me. The FBI director said publicly there, and I quote, "no credible information that Epstein has trafficked his victim to others." Okay. If everyone is lying, right? The files contained FBI memos of victims describing being trafficked to others. Those things, those two things cannot be true at once. I guess you can say the UK is doing what the US will not do, in a fraction, in a little bit, right? In the UK, the files fallout has produced actual arrest. Prince Andrew, formerly known as Andrew Motoben Windsor, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office based on his correspondence with Epstein, and Andrew was a UK trade envoy. He denied wrongdoing. He has not been formally charged, but he was arrested. Peter Mandelson, a former UK cabinet minister and recently appointed UK ambassador to the United States, was arrested on suspicion of passing confidential government info to Epstein during his time in office. He has not been charged, but he was arrested. So 2 arrests in the UK based on the same files. 0 arrests in the US based on the same files. So UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is now under pressure to resign for appointing Mendelsohn to the U.S. ambassador role after the Epstein connection was known. That pressure is real and ongoing. In the U.S., the AG who was supposed to testify got fired. The replacement declared the files complete before he became the acting one. Right? Inspector General opened an audit, and today the entire country is talking about the shooting. Right? The past 3 days, that's all we're talking about. The files have basically gone dead. They don't matter no more. Now, I'm not going to tell you that the shooting was staged to bury the files. I'm going to tell you something more specific and more verifiable, you can say. The files have been losing attention for weeks. Search trends on YouTube, on Google for the files have peaked in January 2026 when the documents dropped. They dropped again in February when Clintons agreed to testify. They spiked briefly when Bondi was fired, and since then they have been declining every single week. Now, Melania Trump gave a rare public address from the White House on the 19th of April to deny being on the files victim, and a move that the White House aides told CNN stunned them. She didn't have to say anything. The fact that she spoke publicly and is doing so to put, the files back in the headlines actually revived the story that was fading. And as of the 25th, Saturday, when the shooting happened, the word Epstein has not trended once since the shooting began. So, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is scheduled to be interviewed by the House Oversight Committee on May 6th, so in a couple of days, after his relationship with Epstein. Bill Gates is scheduled for the House Committee Oversight interview June 10th. Those hearings are coming, and the questions online people are asking is, you know, whether the chaos cycle we were living through is making it harder and harder for those hearings to get public attention when they happen. Right? That's not a conspiracy theory. That is a question about attention and who benefits from controlling it, right? To the victims, Brittany Henderson, a attorney representing more than 100 files victims, said that the DOJ Inspector General audit was announced this week. It should not have taken this long to begin holding the U.S. Department of Justice accountable, but this audit will bring long-awaited sense of temporary relief to the victims. Temporary relief, not justice, not closure, not accountability. Temporary relief. So those are real women, real girls who were abused as minors, who gave testimony to the FBI, whose names are in those files, who are watching a political circus play out a case that is fundamentally about their bodies and suffering. And every time a new crisis dominates this news cycle, every time a shooting or a war or a firing reshuffles the front page, those women fall more step further from accountability than they were promised. That is what I need you to carry out of this segment, if anything. Right? I want to know, what do you know about this files? Do you think the US will actually ever prosecute any of these individuals that are mentioned here? Who in the files do you think needs more scrutiny? Right? Who? Who do you think? Now, let me talk about the 4 million construction project, because within 1 hour of the shots being fired at Washington Hilton, before the crime scene was even processed, the president of the US stood at the White House press conference and said 3 words: "We need the ballroom." That's not explanation, that is speculation, sorry. Right? That is a direct quote that he said. Right? Now, Trump has been pushing for a new 90,000 square foot ballroom to build on the grounds of the White House since early in his second term. He already bulldozed the east wing of the White House. That was a whole ordeal to begin construction. He says the project will cost 400 million, privately funded through donations. That is already a lawsuit. The National Trust of Historic Preservation filed a suit to block that construction. A lower court issued an injunction on March 31st, halting the project. So the injunction is currently under appeal. The argument Trump and the White House have been making is the lawsuit is that without the White House ballroom, the president is forced to leave the White House perimeters for events, and leaving the perimeter creates a security vulnerability. Are you guys connecting what I'm saying? Right? So the White House filing literally argued the absence of the ballroom leaves the White House, quote, open and exposed. They make the legal argument on the 31st. So on the 25th of April this month, right, a gunman showed up the external venue where the president was forced to attend an event because he doesn't yet have his ballroom. Within 1 hour, Trump cited the shooting as proof he needs the ballroom. You see what I mean? When we say this is like not plausible, it feels like it's staged. The DOJ the next day cited the shooting in motion, pressing the National Trust to drop its lawsuit against the ballroom project, calling the lawsuit, quote, frivolous. Okay? On the 26th of this month, so a couple of days ago, the day after the shooting, the White House correspondent dinner was not giving top security status. The event attended by the president, vice presidents, and whatnot was not designated a national security event. The designation would have unlocked a full weight of federal law enforcement resources, security service, a secret service, DHS, military, FBI to secure the entire venue and surrounding premises. Instead, it was not giving that status. So it's like they purposely made sure they didn't have the premises secure so an incident can happen and use it as a leverage to get the ballroom that he wants. You see why we say it could be staged? Right? So the rest of the hotel, a functioning public hotel, is with open lobbies, public spaces, and other events happening simultaneously, was not locked down. So who makes the decisions about who gets national security event status? The Department of Homeland Security. Who runs DHS? Marquain Mullins, who stood beside Trump at this post-shooting press conference. So the event was not secured at the highest level. A gunman got close enough to fire, and Trump immediately used that advance to advance a 400 million construction project that benefits him directly because the ballroom would be on the White House grounds under his control, built on a property owned by the American people. Now, media critics are pointing to something else that nobody's discussing loudly. If the WHCA dinner moves to the White House ballroom, a ballroom that Trump controls, the independence of that event is gone. Journalists gather at the WHCA dinner because it is a neutral ground, a hotel, not a president's house. Moving inside the White House perimeters changes the dynamic of who controls access, who gets invited, and what happens to reporters who criticize the administration. Right? Tom Restino, a media critic who teaches at the University of Maryland, told PolitiFact, I don't think there's any logic here except grasping a reason to support the ballroom. Now, Alan Cole left a manifesto describing by officials. The manifesto did not name Trump directly, but it listed grievances, including the federal government strikes on what it claimed were drug boots in the Pacific, criticizing the security of the hotel itself, saying that this is a direct quote from the manifesto reported by Wikipedia and CBS News. What the hell is the Secret Service doing? No damn security, not in transport, not in the hotel, not in the event. The shooter criticized the security. Trump cited the security failure to push the ballroom. The DOJ used the shooting to press courts to drop a lawsuit blocking the ballroom, all within 24 hours. You tell me what this looks like, guys. You tell me what this looks like. Right? Called himself a friendly federal assassin in his writing. He's an engineering graduate. He also, the other information that we found out is that he criticized Trump's policy, but also criticized Trump's drug war operation. He donated, obviously they have to put this in the mix, right? $25 to Kamala Harris in 2024, donate for a campaign. And the details being weaponized politically to frame as a politically motivated leftist. His motives appear to be anti-administration broadly, but not narrowly partisan based on the manifesto context. So when Nora O'Donnell read Trump's The Manifesto line, calling the target, pedophile and rapist and traitor, Trump responded unprompted, yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't grape anyone. O'Donnell then had to ask, oh, do you think he was referring to you? So that exchange is now everywhere online and is fooling the files connection conversation significantly. So the event was not giving a national security event status, confirmed Washington Post. That is a single most important factual detail in this entire story of the staged versus not real debate. Republicans are already citing the shooting to fast track the ballroom project through Congress. And all of this info, right? What are you guys' thoughts? Right? What are your guys' thoughts? Let me go here. Hmm? What are your guys' thoughts? It was arraigned yesterday. Monday. Can anybody guess what he was charged with? Cole Allen. There's a lot of information. A lot of information. Obviously, he's going to be charged with attempted assassination of Trump, right? Additional charges would be using and disarming a firearm during a violent crime, assaulting a federal officer with a dangerous weapon, transporting firearm across state lines with intent to commit felony. So what this means is that is a targeted attack on high level officials, and legally that puts them in federal court facing decades to life in prison if convicted. And they're saying there could be more charges that could be added to him, right? More charges to be added to him. So that is all that this life was about, and I want to see what you have to say in the comment section. Or your thoughts. What did what do you think is all about? Is it fake? Is it staged? Is it real? All your thoughts. Until next time, I leave you all in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stay safe, stay blessed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share.